The stars looked different from the observation deck of the United Earth ship, Pathfinder. Dr. Alan Wright pressed his hand against the transparent aluminum viewport, his eyes reflecting the strange constellations. After 15 years of research and countless failures, his faster-than-light drive had finally worked. Humanity was about to meet the galactic community. "Nervous, Doctor?" Ambassador Catherine Daniels asked, joining him at the viewport. Her formal diplomatic uniform looked stiff and uncomfortable, but she wore it with pride. "Terrified," Alan admitted. "We're about to meet aliens who've had this technology for thousands of years." Major Samuel Hayes stepped up beside them, his military posture unwavering. "That's why we're here, ma'am. To make sure they understand Earth isn't to be taken lightly." Catherine smiled. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Major." The massive structure of Council Station Alpha appeared in the distance. Unlike human designs, it featured no straight lines, just organic curves that wrapped around a central sphere nearly the size of Earth's moon. Ships of various shapes and sizes moved around it like bees around a hive. "My God," Ellen whispered. "There must be hundreds of species here." The voice of Captain Laura Mendez came over the comm. "Ambassador, we're being directed to docking port 8070. They're sending guidance now." The welcome they received was minimal. A blue-skinned alien with 4 arms and large, unblinking eyes met them at the airlock. "I am Junior Facilitator Ruxiv. I will guide you to the introduction ceremony. Please follow quickly. The Council does not appreciate delays." As they walked through the massive corridors, humans from the diplomatic team tried not to stare at the variety of alien species moving past them. Some floated rather than walked. Others used mechanical assistance. Many glanced at the humans with what seemed like dismissive looks. "Is it normal to have so little formal greeting?" Catherine asked their guide. "For new species without proven value, yes," Ruxiv replied without slowing down. "The Council has inducted 17 new species in the past cycle. The process is routine." Major Hayes leaned close to Catherine. "They're not impressed with us." "Then we'll have to change that," she whispered back. The Council chamber was enormous. A vast amphitheater with hundreds of delegation pods arranged in clear hierarchical rings. The humans were led to a small platform at the very outer edge. "The representatives from Earth will now present themselves to the Galactic Council," announced a booming voice. Catherine stepped forward, her voice clear and steady. "I am Ambassador Catherine Daniels of Earth. We come in peace and friendship, eager to learn and contribute to this galactic community." A rumbling sound filled the chamber. It took the humans a moment to realize it was laughter. From a large, ornate platform near the center, a tall, insectoid alien rose. Its exoskeleton gleamed with embedded technology. "I am Supreme Elder Kestvak of the Xorlian Imperium. The Council acknowledges Earth's achievement in developing primitive faster-than-light travel." The massive screens around the chamber suddenly displayed images from Earth's history, wars, environmental disasters, social conflicts. "We have observed your species for some time," Kestvak continued. "Such emotional instability, such fragile biology, such inefficient social structures." More laughter echoed through the chamber. "Yet here you stand, believing yourselves ready to join advanced civilization. How charmingly presumptuous." Catherine's face remained diplomatic, but her knuckles turned white as she gripped the podium. "Earth will be granted Tier 7 observation status," Kestvak declared. "Perhaps in a century or two, you might advance to Tier 6. More laughter followed. Major Hayes stepped closer to Catherine. "They're making a mistake, underestimating us like this." Dr. Wright nodded. "They see our history of conflict as weakness. They don't understand that struggle made us adaptable." Catherine maintained her smile. "Thank you for your generous welcome, Supreme Elder. Earth looks forward to proving its worth to the Galactic Council." As they were escorted to their tiny embassy quarters, little more than a few rooms in the most distant section of the station, the human team remained silent. Only when the door closed behind them Did Catherine allow her diplomatic mask to fall? Well, she said, looking at her team, we know where we stand. They think we're primitive, weak, and unworthy. They've judged us based on our past and our biology. What do we do now, Ambassador? Asked Lieutenant Foster. Catherine's eyes hardened with determination. We watch, we learn, and we prepare to show them exactly what humanity is capable of. 2 months passed on Council Station Alpha. The human embassy grew from its initial small team to include scientists, engineers, and intelligence officers. They worked quietly, watching and learning. Dr. Olivia Bennett spent her days in the public biological archives. At first, the station's research administrators had laughed when she requested access. Now they barely noticed her constant presence. Found something interesting? Lieutenant Diane Foster asked, sitting down beside Olivia in the embassy's small common room. Olivia nodded, eyes bright with discovery. These species mock our primitive biology, but they're all highly specialized evolutionary branches. The Chorlians have amazing exoskeletons, but can't adapt to temperature changes more than 5 degrees. The Vordax have perfect memory, but can't form new neural pathways after maturity. Weaknesses, Diane said softly. I prefer to call them evolutionary trade-offs, Olivia replied. But yes. Across the room, Chief Engineer Paul Martinez was taking apart a discarded alien device. Their technology follows the same pattern. Extremely advanced in narrow applications, but lacks flexibility. They build perfect specialized tools rather than adaptable ones. Ambassador Catherine Daniels entered, looking tired. Council politics drained her daily. Any updates worth sharing? Paul held up the alien device. Their energy systems are wasteful. They have abundant resources, so they never developed our efficiency requirements. Diane tapped her datapad. I've mapped the major political blocs. The Council presents a united front to us, but they're deeply divided. The Exorlians and Meranti barely tolerate each other, and both bully the smaller species. Catherine nodded. Keep gathering information. Earth needs to understand what we're dealing with. A soft chime indicated someone at the embassy door. The small group tensed. Visitors were rare and usually brought mockery. The door slid open to reveal a tall, willowy alien with soft purple skin and large, expressive eyes. The Navari representative, Ambassador Kelenar. Ambassador Daniels, may I enter? Kelenar's translator made their voice sound like gentle wind chimes. Catherine gestured welcome. Of course, Ambassador. This is unexpected. The Navari moved with graceful steps into the room. I come unofficially. My species values, perspective. We were once new to the Council, too. Paul and Diane exchanged glances but remained silent. Kelenar lowered their voice. The mockery you face is worse than you realize. Several Council species, led by the Exorlians, don't just dismiss humanity. They see your world as resource-rich and your species as expendable. The room went silent. They're waiting for you to prove yourselves unworthy of Council membership. This would allow them to legally exploit Earth under Council law. Catherine's face hardened. Thank you for the warning, Ambassador. But why tell us? Kelenar's large eyes blinked slowly. The Council grows stagnant with age. Many species forget the value of diversity. My people remember. The Navari moved toward the door, then paused. There is one more thing. The Council is keeping information from you about a species called the Drax Collective. They operate beyond Council space and have been growing increasingly hostile. A threat? Major Hayes asked, speaking for the first time. The Council believes the Drax are simply posturing. I disagree. Kelenar's translator couldn't convey emotion well, but their body language suggested concern. The Council species have enjoyed peace so long they've forgotten how to recognize real danger. After Kelenar left, the human team sat in thoughtful silence. Well, Major Hayes finally said, at least we have one potential ally. Catherine stared at the star map displayed on their wall. and potentially many enemies. We need to accelerate our preparations. Paul, how soon can we get more secure communications with Earth? 2 days, maybe less. Good. Earth needs to know what we're facing. She turned to the others. We appear weak now, but that might be our advantage. They've shown us their contempt, but haven't bothered to hide their weaknesses. Dr. Bennett smiled slightly. Humanity's greatest strength has always been adaptation. We take others' ideas and improve them. And we've had more practice at surviving threats than these species remember, added Hayes. Catherine nodded. We'll continue our silent assessment. Let them think we're just struggling to adjust. Meanwhile, we prepare. Earth needs to be ready, both for council politics and whatever these Dracs might bring. Outside their small embassy, the massive council station continued its daily operations, its inhabitants unaware that the supposedly primitive humans were quietly assessing every weakness, every opportunity, and every potential threat. Alarms blared throughout Council Station Alpha. Red emergency lights flashed in every corridor. Aliens of all species ran in different directions, many shouting in their native languages as translation systems struggled with the volume of panic. In the human embassy, Ambassador Catherine Daniels and her team watched the chaos on their monitors. It's happening, Lieutenant Diane Foster said. The Drax Collective has launched attacks on 3 outer council worlds simultaneously. Major Hayes nodded grimly, just as the Navari warned us. And the council was completely unprepared. Catherine turned as the embassy door slid open. Commander Gregory Wilson entered, wearing the dark blue uniform of Earth's new space fleet. Behind him stood the bridge crew of humanity's first military spacecraft, the UES Defiant. Ambassador, Commander Wilson saluted. Earth received your warnings. The Defiant was dispatched immediately. We arrived in secret 2 days ago and have been observing from the outer docking ring. Catherine's eyes widened. Earth built a warship that quickly. Wilson smiled slightly. Not exactly built. More like repurposed. The Pathfinder was always designed with military conversion capabilities, just in case. Smart planning, Major Hayes said with approval. The station shook violently. Lights flickered. That was a direct hit, Chief Engineer Martinez reported, checking his instruments. The Dracs are here. They've bypassed the outer defenses completely. Catherine straightened her uniform. Commander Wilson, please accompany me to the council emergency session. The rest of you, prepare for possible evacuation or defense scenarios. The emergency council chamber was smaller than the main hall and filled with shouting representatives. Supreme Elder Kistvak of the Corleans attempted to establish order, his translator barely keeping up with his clicking mandibles. The situation is under control. The Drax incursion is minor. Council defense forces are responding. Another explosion rocked the station, louder than before. Catherine pushed her way forward, Commander Wilson at her side. Supreme Elder, Earth offers assistance in coordinating defense efforts. Kistvak's compound eyes turned toward her. Ambassador Daniels, this is hardly the time for your species to play at being helpful. What could primitive humans possibly contribute to our defense? We have a combat-ready vessel docked at the station, Commander Wilson said, and our species has extensive experience with conflict scenarios. Several council members chittered with what sounded like laughter despite the crisis. Your vessel is tiny compared to council warships. Kistvak dismissed them with a wave of his upper limbs. Return to your embassy. The Corlean fleet will handle this minor threat. On the main view screen, a Xorlian cruiser exploded as 3 Drax vessels concentrated fire on it. Panic rose again in the chamber. Ambassador Kelinar of the Navari moved to Catherine's side. The council species have not faced true warfare in generations. They've forgotten how to respond to coordinated attacks. The station rocked again, harder this time. Emergency systems wailed new warnings. Station breach in sectors 12, 17, and 23. An automated voice announced. Security forces responding. Those sectors are nowhere near each other, Commander Wilson noted. They're using multiple entry points to divide defensive resources. Catherine's communication device buzzed. It was Lieutenant Foster. Ambassador, we're tracking Drax boarding parties. They're moving systematically toward critical systems, and they're heading toward the council chambers. Kistvak was still trying to assure everyone of Corleon's superiority when the chamber doors exploded inward. Tall, gray-skinned figures rushed through the smoke. The Drax had 4 arms like the Exorlians, but moved with terrifying speed and purpose. Their faces were covered with breathing apparatus that gave them an insect-like appearance. They carried energy weapons unlike any the humans had seen before. Council security guards fired wildly, missing more often than hitting. The Drax advanced methodically. Supreme Elder Kistvak froze in shock as council members screamed and scattered. Commander Wilson pulled Catherine behind a fallen piece of debris. He tapped his communication device. This is Wilson to Defiant Crew. Implement Security Protocol Alpha. Council chamber is under direct assault. Moving to secure high-value targets. He looked at Catherine. Ambassador, I believe it's time to show the Council what humans are capable of. Catherine nodded. Agreed, Commander. Let's make sure they're paying attention this time. Chaos ruled the Council chamber. Drax soldiers advanced through smoke and debris. Council members scrambled for safety while their guards fired wildly. Commander Wilson tapped his wrist device. 6 humans in black armor appeared at different doorways. They moved with purpose, unlike the panicking aliens. Secure the exits, Wilson ordered calmly. Standard formation. Non-lethal where possible. Catherine watched in amazement as the human security team executed their plan with practiced precision. They didn't waste shots or movement. Supreme Elder Kistvak cowered behind his platform as a Drax soldier approached him. Before the Drax could fire, a human soldier rolled across the floor and took the alien down with a swift strike to its breathing apparatus. Move. This way. Major Hayes shouted to the council members, directing them toward a secured exit. Follow my team. The council aliens stared in shock before following his orders. Back at the human embassy, Dr. Olivia Bennett worked frantically at her station. I've analyzed the Drax biosigns from the station sensors. They have a respiratory vulnerability. Their breathing mixture is highly specific. Chief Engineer Martinez nodded while rerouting station systems. I can use the environmental controls to create safe zones where they can't breathe properly. Not enough to kill them, but enough to slow them down. Lieutenant Foster monitored communications. The UES Defiant reports 6 Drax ships approaching. Station defenses are uncoordinated. Give me access to the defense grid, Martinez said. I can synchronize the targeting systems. In space around the station, the UES Defiant faced 3 Drax warships. The human vessel was smaller but moved with surprising agility. Evasive Pattern Delta, ordered the Defiant's captain. Focus fire on the lead ship's engine housing. The human vessel darted between laser blasts, firing precisely at the weak points of the Drax ships. The aliens expected head-on attacks and seemed confused by the human tactics. Inside the station, Commander Wilson and Ambassador Daniels reached a secondary control room. Council technicians struggled with the systems. Move aside, Wilson said firmly. He connected his device to the station network. Martinez, we're linked. Do your thing. Throughout the station, environmental systems suddenly recalibrated. In corridors where Drax soldiers advanced, the air composition shifted subtly. The invaders slowed, their movements becoming sluggish. Station defense turrets activated in synchronized patterns, creating crossfire zones the Drax couldn't predict. Security barriers raised and lowered in sequences that channeled the invaders into prepared ambush points. In the medical section, Dr. Bennett worked with 2 human nurses and a confused Navari doctor. Their respiratory system can't process certain compounds, she explained. We can create an aerosol that will confuse their senses without harming other species. Ambassador Kelnar watched the humans work with growing amazement. Your people respond to crisis with remarkable coordination. Catherine nodded as she helped organize the evacuation of wounded council members. "We've had practice. Earth's history is filled with conflicts." "The very thing they mocked you for," Kelnar observed. In the main corridor, a group of council security forces found themselves trapped between two Drax units. Major Hayes and 3 human soldiers appeared above them. Using maintenance shafts, the station maps showed as inaccessible. "Cover fire," Hayes shouted, dropping down behind the council guards. "Aim for their breathing masks." The humans' precise shots disabled several Drax. The rest fell back in surprise. Throughout the station, the pattern repeated. Human teams appeared where needed most. They didn't try to defeat the Drax alone. Instead, they organized the council forces, guided evacuations, and targeted specific weaknesses. On the command deck, Supreme Elder Kistvak watched the security feeds in shocked silence. The humans moved through combat like they were born to it, yet showed no fear or bloodlust. "How are they doing this?" he asked no one in particular. They were supposed to be primitive. Ambassador Daniels appeared beside him, slightly breathless from running. "Supreme Elder, Commander Wilson needs authorization to implement full station lockdown protocols. We can isolate the remaining Drax forces and protect the civilian areas." Kistvak's mandibles clicked in agitation. "You need my authorization. You humans seem to be managing fine without council approval." Catherine's eyes hardened. "We respect the chain of command, Elder, even when others don't respect us." The Xorlian leader stared at her for a long moment before nodding slowly. "Authorization granted, Ambassador. Please, continue helping us." The emergency council chamber was crowded and tense. The first Drax attack had been repelled, but station sensors showed more enemy ships approaching. Council species argued loudly among themselves. The Moranti defense grid should lead the response, insisted a floating, jellyfish-like representative. Xorlian warships have superior firepower, countered Supreme Elder Kistvak. "We must strike decisively. Both approaches leave our flanks exposed," said a reptilian council member. "The Drax clearly study our standard tactics." Ambassador Catherine Daniels stood quietly, waiting for the right moment. Commander Wilson and Lieutenant Foster stood beside her, reviewing battle data on their tablets. Finally, Catherine stepped forward. "If I may address the council." The chamber fell into an uneasy silence. Many eyes turned toward the human representative. "Earth has analyzed the Drax attack patterns," Catherine said. "We've prepared a comprehensive counter-strategy." She nodded to Lieutenant Foster, who activated a holographic display. It showed the station, the approaching Drax fleet, and a complex series of defensive positions. "The Drax use a hive mind tactical approach," Catherine explained. "They expect us to defend in standard formations. Instead, we propose an asymmetric response, using all Council species' strengths in unexpected combinations." Commander Wilson stepped forward. "Xorlian warships have powerful weapons, but slow turning speeds. Moranti vessels are faster, but with lighter armaments. If they work together instead of separately, they become much more effective." Several council members began talking at once. "We do not take orders from humans," said a Xorlian commander. "Your species has been in space for barely a moment," said another representative. Supreme Elder Kistvak raised his upper limbs for silence. "What makes you think your primitive species can outthink the Drax when our strategists cannot?" Catherine's voice remained calm. "Because humans have been fighting wars against other humans for thousands of years. We've developed countless strategies and counter-strategies. The Drax, like most council species, evolved from hive structures. Their thinking is collective but predictable." Ambassador Kelnar of the Navari rose gracefully. "I support the human proposal. They have already proven their worth in the first attack." The debate continued until alarms blared again. The main view screen showed a second, larger wave of Drax ships approaching. "They're targeting our power cores," Lieutenant Foster reported. 4 minutes until they're in firing range." As the council chamber erupted in renewed panic, Commander Wilson stepped away and spoke quietly into his communication device. Defiant, implement defense pattern Omega. Coordinate with any vessels willing to follow your lead. Around the station, things began to happen without Council authorization. The UES Defiant moved into position, broadcasting tactical data to friendly ships. Several Navari vessels immediately fell into formation with it. After a moment of hesitation, 3 Meranti ships joined as well. Inside the station, Hall Martinez worked with engineers from various species to reconfigure the defense systems. Dr. Bennett distributed her respiratory countermeasures to security teams. Major Hayes led a mixed group of human and alien soldiers to defensive positions, teaching them human combat tactics on the move. In the council chamber, Catherine watched the view screen as the Defiant-led formation engaged the Drax in a completely unorthodox pattern. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on, they performed a complex dance of feints and targeted strikes. "What are they doing?" asked a confused council member. "Breaking the Drax collective coordination," Catherine explained. When faced with unpredictable movements, hive minds struggle to adapt. On screen, the first Drax ship exploded as the Defiant and a Navari vessel hit it from opposite sides simultaneously. Supreme Elder Kistvak's compound eyes reflected the battle. "This is not how space combat is conducted." "Not how you conduct it," Catherine corrected gently. "Humans learned long ago that rigid adherence to tradition in warfare leads to defeat." As the battle continued, more council ships began following the Defiant's lead. The Drax formation, so powerful in its unified approach, began to falter against the unpredictable human tactics. "Perhaps," Kistvak said quietly, "we were hasty in our judgment of your species, Ambassador Daniels." Catherine nodded. "We're all learning new things today, Supreme Elder. Now, shall we discuss implementing the rest of our counter-strategy? The Drax won't give up after one defeat." For the first time since humans arrived at the council, the chamber listened to Catherine with genuine attention and growing respect. The battle for Council Station Alpha entered its 3rd day. The Drax attacks came in waves, each one learning from the last. But the defenders were learning too, with humans leading the way. Catherine stood with Commander Wilson in the main control center, studying the tactical display. The station's outer rings showed damage, but the core remained secure. "Ambassador, we're detecting new energy signatures approaching," Lieutenant Foster reported. "They don't match Drax patterns." Catherine's communication device activated. "Ambassador Daniels, this is Admiral Julia Rise of Earth Fleet Command. The cavalry has arrived." On the main screen, a group of ships appeared from faster-than-light travel. They didn't look like typical Earth vessels. Their designs combined human engineering with elements clearly inspired by various alien technologies. "Earth Fleet Command." Supreme Elder Kistvak's mandibles clicked in surprise. "You said you had only one ship." Catherine smiled slightly. "We said we had one ship at the station. We never claimed it was our only ship. We've been building a small defense fleet in secret," Commander Wilson explained, "just in case the galaxy wasn't as friendly as we hoped." The Earth ships moved into formation. There were 8 vessels in total, led by the flagship UES Indomitable. They were smaller than Council battleships, but more versatile in design. Deploying to defensive positions, Admiral Rise announced, "We've analyzed your tactical data and are ready to coordinate." In the research section, Dr. Bennett worked frantically with a team of human and alien scientists. Her laboratory table was covered with biological samples and testing equipment. "The respiratory countermeasure helps," she told Paul Martins, "but the Drax are adapting. We need something that affects their coordination, not just their breathing." Martinez rubbed his tired eyes. "Their ships communicate using quantum-paired signals. If we could disrupt that." Dr. Bennett's eyes widened. "Not disrupt, infiltrate. Their collective consciousness depends on synchronized communication. If we introduce a virus that doesn't block communication but alters it slightly, like introducing static rather than cutting the line." Martinez nodded excitedly. But we'd need to deliver it directly to their command ship. Their network is isolated from standard transmission methods. Major Hayes stepped into the lab. Did I hear something about a delivery problem? Delivery is my specialty. The plan came together quickly. Dr. Bennett created a modified communications virus that would fragment the Drax collective consciousness without killing them. The human scientists worked with incredible speed, building on each other's ideas. Admiral Rice coordinated the Earth fleet in a daring maneuver. Using tactics no Council species had ever seen, they opened a narrow corridor through the Drax formation, creating a path to the enemy command ship. Major Hayes led a small team of volunteers on what everyone knew was likely a one-way mission. Catherine watched from the control center as their tiny craft launched toward the massive Drax command vessel. "Those humans are sacrificing themselves," Ambassador Kellnar said softly. "They're giving us a chance," Catherine replied. "It's what humans do when faced with overwhelming odds. We find a way, whatever the cost." The human strike team's vessel took heavy fire, but reached the Drax command ship. They forced their way inside through a maintenance hatch. Council members watched on video feeds as Major Hayes and his team fought their way through the alien vessel. "They move like they've trained for this specific mission," observed a Moranti commander. "They haven't," Commander Wilson said. "They've just faced impossible situations before." On the Drax ship, Hayes reached the central communication hub. Half his team was already lost. He placed Bennett's device on the main console and activated it. The virus began uploading into the Drax network. Device planted. Hayes reported over a breaking connection. Mission accomplished. His transmission ended as explosions rocked the Drax command ship. Throughout the battle zone, Drax ships suddenly began moving erratically. Some fired on each other. Others drifted aimlessly. The collective consciousness that guided them was fragmenting into individual minds for the first time in their species' history. In the control center, Catherine bowed her head briefly for Hayes and his team. When she looked up, her eyes were determined. "We need to open communication with the Drax," she said. "They're individuals now, not a hive. They'll be confused, frightened. Communicate." Kistvak was shocked. "They tried to destroy us. And now we have a chance to end this without destroying them," Catherine said firmly. "Isn't that what advanced civilizations do?" 3 months after the Drax crisis, the main council chamber looked very different. Workers had repaired the battle damage. New security systems stood visible at every entrance. But the biggest change was in how the various species interacted with each other. Groups that once kept strictly to themselves now mixed freely. Engineers from 6 species collaborated on strengthening the station's defenses. Military officers shared tactics and training methods. The rigid hierarchy that had defined the Council for centuries was softening. Ambassador Catherine Daniels entered the chamber wearing a formal Earth diplomatic uniform. She noticed immediately that the small, distant platform once assigned to humans was gone. In its place was a new position much closer to the center of the chamber. Admiral Julia Rice walked beside Catherine. "Quite a change from our first day here," she said quietly. Catherine nodded. "They're not laughing anymore." The chamber filled quickly. Species that once ignored humans now nodded respectfully as Catherine passed. The Navari delegation, led by Ambassador Kellenar, offered formal vows. Supreme Elder Kistvak called the session to order. His once dismissive posture toward humans had been replaced by something resembling respect. "This special session of the Galactic Council will now begin," he announced. "Our primary purpose today is to formally reassess the status of humanity within our community." The chamber fell silent. Every eye, compound or otherwise, focused on the Thorlian leader. 3 standard cycles ago, we welcomed Earth to the Council with mockery and contempt. Kistvak continued. "We judged their biology as fragile, their emotions as weakness, their history of conflict as primitive." Catherine stood tall, remembering those difficult early days. "We were wrong," Kistvak said simply. Murmurs spread through the chamber. In the greatest crisis our council has faced in 10 generations, humanity showed us what we had forgotten. They showed us adaptability. They showed us courage. They showed us that unity does not require uniformity. Kistvak turned his compound eyes directly to Catherine. On behalf of the Xorlian Imperium and this council, I formally apologize for our misjudgment of humanity. A respectful clicking sound, the Xorlian equivalent of applause, filled the chamber. Other species joined with their own forms of approval. Furthermore, Kistvak continued, I propose that Earth be immediately granted senior membership status, with all corresponding rights and responsibilities. Council historians later noted that this was the first unanimous vote in over 300 years. After the ceremony, Catherine and Admiral Rice walked through the station to the newly expanded Earth Embassy. They passed a memorial wall where the names of those lost in the battle were displayed. Major Samuel Hayes' name held a position of honor. He would be proud, Rice said, touching the memorial briefly. They all would. Dr. Olivia Bennett met them at the embassy entrance. Ambassador, my cross-species medical exchange program has been approved. We have applicants from 27 species already. Inside, Paul Martinez was working with a group of alien engineers. We're combining Xorlian power systems with human efficiency principles, he explained. The results are remarkable. Lieutenant Foster looked up from her communication station. The Drax representatives are responding well to the peace negotiations. Their individuals are developing unique personalities now that they're free from the collective. Catherine walked to the window of their new spacious embassy. The view showed the vast expanse of stars beyond the station. Admiral Rice joined her. You know what's funny? Catherine said. They thought our history of warfare made us primitive. They never understood that conflict taught us to value peace. And they thought our emotions were weakness, Rice added. They never realized that empathy is what stopped us from destroying the Drax when we had the chance. Catherine smiled slightly. They thought our adaptability meant we had no identity. They never saw that changing is our identity. Outside the window, ships from dozens of species moved in harmony around the station. Among them were Earth vessels, no longer hidden or dismissed, but recognized and respected. What's next for humanity in the galaxy? Rice asked. Catherine watched as a group of young aliens studied with a human teacher in a room across the hall. They were learning about Earth history, art, and culture with eager curiosity. We keep being human, she said simply. It turns out, that's exactly what the galaxy needed.